Sorry, just one second. Good evening. It is Thursday, January 11th, 2018. Welcome to the closed session of the Kensington Police Protection and Community Services District. I am Board President Rochelle Sherris-Watt, and I will now take roll. Vice President Natoli?
Present.
Director Hassai?
Present.
Director Welsh?
Hello from the men's corner over here.
And Director Debbie?
And at the edge of the corner here.
Oh, right. Well, we are not self-segregating, it's just by happen chance. So we'll now take public comment on items appearing on our closed session agenda. Seeing as there are none, we will adjourn to closed session and return for open session at 7:30 p.m. Good evening. Welcome to the January 11th, 2018 meeting of the Kensington Police Protection and Community Services District. I'm Board President Rochelle Sherris-Watt, and I will take roll. Vice President Natoli?
Here.
Director Welsh?
Here.
Director Hassai?
Here.
Director Deppie?
Here.
Welcome to our first meeting of the new year. We're returning from closed session. Concerning item A, we have nothing to report now, and no action was taken, but we would like to let you know that we hope to have an MOU with the KPD, for our next agenda. If that's possible, we will publish that as soon as we are able, so that you get advance notice of that. And concerning item B, the board will return to closed session after the end of this meeting. All right, we'll now take public comments on items not appearing on the agenda.
Hello, good evening. This is Linda Lipscomb. I'm going to turn this thing on no matter what. There we go. I've had the flu, so if my voice sounds a bit husky, it's just me and Kathleen Turner. I have come here because I am absolutely... I'm so sorry, Celia. It gives me some pain to be painful to you. I have come here to shout out about the recent spate of vandalism, including dozens of incidents on Beloit, Kenyon, Highland, Lake Drive, Purdue, following that a couple of days later, Purdue Avenue, a car theft following that. And after that, today a report that there's yet another smashing as of Wednesday, at least on next door, of car windows. Well, you're presiding over a lot of instability. You're analyzing up the yin-yang. And I'm glad to hear that you're getting close to a memorandum of understanding with the Kensington Police Department, because it's also my understanding that you're presiding over the decimation of the number of officers we now have on staff. I believe that it may be down as low as 6 persons at this point. I'd also point out, instead of trying to diminish that and keep this atmosphere of instability and whether we're going to contract out, which has been the mantra of the current board, I suggest instead you consider hiring additional officers, creating an environment where the community supports its police department, instead of leaving in a state of, well, maybe we'll be there, maybe we won't, maybe we'll have jobs, maybe we won't, which is what you have created. And you are presiding over the very crime wave that I thought would occur. Indeed, I mentioned it several times, because this community was indeed a very safe community. And it is also a highway between very high crime communities, i.e. the Arlington is a zip straight through. That's all I have to say. You should come to, one other point. I hardly suspected that in the splitting of the chief of police and the general manager's position, that you would so downgrade the function of the general manager that you've got him on part-time. You should be looking at increasing the number of staff that govern this jurisdiction and the number of police officers. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Edward?
I hope I don't sound like an actress, but I've got the flu too. I'd like to start out by saying that you all did not preside over the situation in which the present problems that you're dealing with arose. So I just wanted to get that in. But I'm really here today to ask if the board is dealing with taking a position with respect to what the policies and procedures are. Are they governing or just guidance? And I would like to, I understand that there are complications and it's not a simple matter, but I would like to know if what the board's position is on the fundamental role of the policies and procedures that you pass. So I would like to hear about that, both orally and in writing. So thank you.
Anthony Knight. On New Year's Day, early, my wife and I came out of our front gate to witness a couple of very sorry-looking neighbors staring at their smashed windows on their car. There were 3 smashed windows on Willamette Avenue, and my wife and I got in our car and we drove around in the immediate neighborhood, and we counted 9 more. So we saw 12 right in our immediate area, and I heard reports a lot higher, unverified, all the way up to 20. And I did have to wonder about the staffing of our police department right now. It's my understanding that we're not up to full strength. I wish the chief was here. I would ask him directly how many officers are currently on active duty and how many are not, and why those who are not. Is this because they transferred, they retired, they are on administrative leave, whatever reason? Is it possible that somebody here can give me that information? No. Okay, well, then I turn to the rest of you. I think you should all be asking the same question. Is our police department staffed? And how is it that all of a sudden, in one day, we can have this degree of vandalism when you'd think that the police would be cruising around and watching, especially on New Year's?
I hope everybody will note that for a good percentage of the time, there is only one patrolman on duty. And they aren't always on the street. They're writing reports. They're having, there's a lot of paperwork involved in the job. So you can imagine one patrolman, and that's when we're at full staffing, is not going to be able to cover all the streets. And I think it's well known that patrolling can't stop burglaries, and they aren't going to stop the people who are breaking your car windows. I mean, in our time in Kensington, we've had our, I like to say, our not shootout, I don't remember the words very well anymore, but we've had our car window shot out twice. And, it happens in a second. And it's just like we see people run a stop sign. Well, there just happens to be no policeman around. Well, that's the odds of the matter. I hate to say it, more security cameras in this day and age is something that people can do proactively to help protect themselves and their neighbors. Even if we were at full staffing, and or even if you had a policeman on every block, and that's not going to happen.
Thank you.
I'm Andrew Gutierrez. We should recall that when this board came on, 3 of the officers were on administrative leave for various things that had nothing to do with funding. It had to do with the fact that they were on sick leave, administrative leave for various reasons, and so on. So to blame this board is a bit beyond the pale. It's ridiculous, to be quite exact. I appreciated the fact that we received a summary report a couple of months back of what each of the officers had been doing, how many stops they made, and so on, and to find out who was really being active on the street. I would like to see that same report being given out monthly so that we can start tabulating this by officer. Now, it doesn't take an army of people to go and shoot out 12 to 30 windows. They can simply drive down the street and take pot shots. So to try to stop that sort of thing and to claim that this board is responsible for that is ludicrous. It's ludicrous. So we should stop doing that, and we should start focusing in on what are the alternatives, and to get a good review of the current services, and to find out what kinds of services we should be, we can get, and that would better meet our needs. I haven't found that, for example, on the North Arlington, that the police patrolling is very common. In fact, on any afternoon, you could easily give a couple of hundred tickets for excessive speeding, coming around what I call dead man's curve. So let's get serious, folks. We don't have an unlimited amount of money. We don't have officers, 2 or 3 on every shift. We just don't have that level of resources. And a lot of the time, some of these officers are off for all kinds of reasons. Okay? Thank you.
Good evening, Jim Watt. I did fill out a card. I would like to address the issue of the change to the agenda insofar as the consent calendar is concerned. I am very concerned about those changes because we have had a long-standing tradition here, and I'm looking at the agenda for the January 2009, the farthest back we can go on our website, in which, in the consent calendar, they had the profit and loss statement, the board members' reports, correspondence, police department update, general manager update, monthly calendar, and recreation report. All of these items were included as part of that consent calendar. And that has been the case, obviously, probably well before January 2009. Right up to the present, except for this month. This month, as we can see, all of those, most of those items, with the exception of the minutes from the previous meeting, have been pulled. and they have been put under the documents section where they therefore cannot, while we can look at them, we cannot get you people to comment on some of the concerns that we have. And I have concerns, and I'm going to express some of those concerns. Let's start with the budget. The budget that was put into the documents section but not into the agenda packet still continues to show some areas that I believe we as the public, the tax-paying members of this community, who pay the 90% of this budget which goes to police services, need to get an understanding about why some of these discrepancies are occurring. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I will just simply point out that we are now seeing overtime costs that have reached, as of the end of December, $77,000. We had a full year budget of $75,000. So at the current rate, we're going to be a good $75,000 over on the overtime item. And as previous parties to this meeting have already stated, it can anticipate that it might go up faster than that, given what we appear to have by way of a shorthanded situation with our officer. The one that, of course, totally frustrates me, and I'll kind of conclude with this particular, well, there's two of them here, frustrates me, is the 51T, which is the Medical Dental Trust Fund. I have asked, and I'm on the Finance Committee, and it was agreed by the Finance Committee and agreed to by the board, that we would fund that trust as of the start of the fiscal year. And here we are in January, 6 months later, and we haven't put a penny into that trust fund. Maybe there are some reasons, but I certainly can't figure out why it would take 6 months to get that $262,500 into that trust fund. I hope that everybody understands that the stock market is probably up probably at least 10% since July 1st of last year. Therefore, we can assume that we have probably lost, had we had it on that trust fund, maybe $20,000 or more in growth had it gone in there. My other concern is that I have mentioned on several occasions about 564, which is the communications fund, and I see that we put another $97,000 into it last month, bringing that communications fund up to $217,000, which is almost exactly at the full year amount. I'm concerned that we're going to considerably overstate that account as well. And the other item that I'd like to talk about is what has been briefly discussed here, which is the fact that we no longer see any of the officers' reports in the consent calendar. We haven't seen a chief's report or a general manager's report for a considerable period of time. These used to be standard things that came in as part of the consent calendar. And I think we, again, as the citizens of this community, we have a right to know what is going on with our police department. I agree with some of the people here that we need to understand, are we down to 6 officers? What is actually happening in our community, and what do we intend to do about it? I think these are issues that the board needs to address. Thank you.
Good evening. Can everyone hear? No. Excellent. Is this better? Yes. Thank you. Okay, I'm not suffering from anything, so I don't expect to give you any deep flu or Black Death or anything like that. Couple things. First off, deriving from the comments about the breaking of windows. At the time, hearing neighbors on Lake Drive and Beloit and Kenyon and where Grizzly Peak all come together talk about that with a fair amount of concern, I started wondering, can we as neighbors, do we start putting up something with motion-sensitive cameras that at least would give some kind of documentation to the comings and goings, I don't know, A couple years ago, one of our wheelbarrows for fire safety work was stolen in the middle of the day. I watched it go down the street on the top of someone's vehicle, no license plate on the front, as I stood in the street saying, "You're stealing my wheelbarrow." Okay, so perhaps there's something we can do around getting more eyes out so that there's a record to help the police. The other thing I want to mention, and I think we have to step back from emotionally demonizing our neighbors. And these would be our neighbors to the north and our neighbors to the south. And to me, this kind of reflects a very easy blaming that's become part of a political culture. We blame our neighbors to the south, all those terrible people coming in from Mexico. This isn't about the terrible people coming in from Mexico, but it's about the ease with which we seem to assume that all the terrible people and the crime will be coming in along the Arlington. This is possible, but when you drive the Arlington, the neighborhood looks pretty much like ours. And when you drive the Arlington all the way to the fountain at the Circle in Berkeley, that's pretty much very similar neighborhood to where we live. So I think we're going to pull back from that kind of emotionalism. Is there a problem? Clearly. But I think that we need to look at it just pragmatically and look at the details and start addressing those. And I think the knee-jerk reaction to demonize other people is just something we should sort of take a deep breath and maybe not do quite as quickly.
Good evening. I'm Carl Kruger. One quick announcement before I'm going to say what I wanted to say. The fire board next month is going to meet on the first Wednesday, the 7th, instead of the 14th. I think they moved the meeting so they wouldn't all have to give me a Valentine's present. The thing I was going to talk about tonight, unfortunately, makes me a Me Too person, which I absolutely hate to be. I came and I intended to ask how many people we have, how many sworn officers we have on staff this week, and how many we have working. And my main point is, I understand that we have an officer that we terminated more than a year ago, who filed an appeal, lost the appeal, and somehow files another appeal. If I understand it right, we have an officer we terminated, paid about $110,000 plus benefits since he's been terminated. And I do not understand how an appeal process can take that long. I know that any officer has a right to appeal. The union has a right to help with the appeal. But I don't think an officer is entitled to appeal until retirement age. And our payroll is over, and we can't afford to not bring an item to a conclusion. So if I understand it right, you as a board control the timing, at least half, and you need to push so this thing gets brought behind us. When the year's over and the election is going to come, I'm going to judge you on whether you can complete items or not. Thank you.
Yeah, we're still.
In process.
A. Stevens Dilk. In 2011, Bayview President Louis Vigoni said that since a recycling incentive was introduced, quote, the company's records reveal no significant decrease in the amount of refuse still taken to landfill, close quote. However, according to records obtained through a PRA request, in the preceding 5 years, there had been decreases of 5 to 17% in garbage in all but 1 year. Since 2005, there has been a total decrease in landfill disposal of 29%. There has been a surprising 20% decrease in the amount of recycled materials. It is unlikely that residents are throwing recyclables into their garbage can, since landfill disposal decreased even more, and likely that it is because of source reduction, the first part of reduce, reuse, recycle. That is, buying less of some products like drinks in single-use bottles and items in excessive packaging, reducing junk mail and newspapers, or switching to products in lighter containers like wine in a box and Perrier in plastic bottles. Records show that the amount of yard waste has been relatively constant. Households average 28 gallons per pickup, less than 2 cans a month. This suggests that unlimited collection may not be essential for everybody, but it is certainly convenient for all of us who do big cleanups, which are important for fire safety and other reasons. Currently, the total amount of waste picked up by Bayview is 3,000 tons per year, which means around 3.5 pounds per person per day. Kensington diverts 60% of that from landfill by separating out recyclable material and yard debris. And disposal is just over 1 pound per person a day, which is better than the state's goal for 2020. Kensington is greener than I thought prior to being able to look at Bayview's reports for the last 12 years. And I commend residents for substantially reducing landfill disposal during that time. If you're interested, my full solid waste review is posted on the district website under monthly reports. Unfortunately, part of one graphic was deleted, but I have copies of the original for you if you would like one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Celia Conkas. I hope that we will be able to have access to the minutes and the agenda. When I looked at the website, I looked at the link tonight at 5, or I guess it was 7 o'clock, it said that it just wasn't available. So, and I hope that the old stuff is also retrievable so that we can get copies of it. I think it's-
Both should be correct now, but we'll see.
Yeah? Good.
Well, cross your fingers with my demo.
Okay. We have had so many occasions over the last few years when videos have disappeared or cards have not worked, and so I'm really urging for there to be some redundancy in this system so that we don't lose information irretrievably. And thank you very much for what you're doing.
All right, comments from the board? Go ahead.
I just had a question. I think we should answer the question, how many police are on the books for now? Is that something you can answer, Tony?
There should be 6. We had 2 retirements in December.
Thank you.
Yes.
We had 2 retirements in December.
Those are unfilled.
Unfilled positions.
No, those have been, actually, the other 2 are half-time positions, and they have not been filled. As they're budgeted.
They were budgeted, I believe, half-time,
Half-time.
because the anticipation that they would not be for the fiscal year.
They were budgeted starting in October, because they were not going to be able to be filled before then, or something like that.
Prior to-
They were not filled, they were budgeted for half the year, not half-time. They're authorized positions. That's all, they're authorized positions. They were authorized for half of the year. They are not half-time. The latter half, but they're just
No,
authorized.
I didn't intend to start a dialogue here. I just wanted Tony to answer that question, so.
Okay. Other board comments?
I'm really confused as to how many officers we have on payroll.
6.
And how many we have working.
6,
We have 6 working and 6 on payroll?
as of today. All right, any other items? I'd like to congratulate and recognize Thomas Hansen, who began his career with Kensington Police Department, and today was appointed, well, was formally, had his formal swearing-in ceremony as Chief of Police for the city of Brentwood, and Chief Hull attended and expressed our congratulations at his movement. Chief Hansen was acting Chief of Police since 2017 and was formally appointed last month. All right, any comments from, all right. Then moving on, we'll move on to item 7, the consent calendar. Any comments from the public? You're welcome to.
Gutierrez, are there any neighborhood watch groups actively organized throughout Kensington?
Not any that I'm aware of at this.
That might be part of the answer to solving what's happening, because, you know, vandalism, who knows where it comes from and how, could even be local, okay? So how could we get that started in terms of the police department, community engagement?
This is an idea we can discuss in more detail, either casually with the board members, or we can get some feedback, but as it's not on the agenda, we can't
Okay.
really, but we can certainly research that and discuss further. Board comments on the consent calendar? All right, then I will make a motion that we accept the consent calendar, minutes from the November 26th meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye. The motion passes 5-0. Moving on to old business, Director Hasai is going to discuss the community center remodel.
Okay. I'm going to give an update, and if you have not yet picked up the item in the back, there's what's called the cost estimator summary on the back table. So that might be helpful to folks, and please let me know if you need that. I'm going to try to do this without any overhead or any projection, and try to speak as clearly as I can, and there are a lot of numbers involved, and if it becomes too difficult, maybe we'll find another way. But the cost estimators put a finer point on the expected cost for the community center remodel. And so if you turn to page 5 of the executive summary that you have there, lays out pretty clearly, excuse me. Turn this off. What the costs are looking like. And they're not too far off from what Glass and Associates had provided. And so looking at the main estimates, this is the bare minimum work that we need to do in order to address the seismic, ADA, and energy efficiency requirements. The subtotal is 1.071, and they add a 15% bidding contingency. That's slightly higher than we expected. We were thinking 10 to 12%, but these folks are known to be very conservative, and at this point, I have no interest in, I'm fine to accept that and look forward to that. As many of you also know, the Kensington Community Council generously provided 2 donations in the last month. An unrestricted donation of $250,000, which is made up of matching community donations over a period of many years or several years, and a donation adding to their own to make $250,000. That is unrestricted and to be used toward that work. They also provided a donation of $210,000, which is restricted to 4 items, 4 alternates that they wanted to see. Those were what's an open wall here that allows for indoor-outdoor access and provides more visual as well as physical access. They also are interested in upgrading the heating system. That was not an item that we had to touch as part of the basic project, as well as full height storage along this wall. And the last item that they were interested in is better acoustical ceiling tile. So that was presented to us in December based on the initial estimates from Glass Associates. Now if you look below the main total, you see all the alternates. And their $210,000 donation will not cover the fall alternates that they want. And the reason we're talking about this today is that we need to go to construction documents to keep our process going to get to bid. And there are 2 main decisions that have to be made as part of construction documents that are not easily changed out, reversed, that are foundational to the project. So the first is going to an open type wall, and the second is the heating system. So I'm going to discuss those in a little bit more detail. The numbers that are presented here, I want to note, do not include the 15% bidding contingency. So this total middle column of numbers, you need to add 15% to all of those numbers to understand the true cost. And I'm going to focus mostly on the 2 items around the wall and the heating system, because those are decisions that we need to just sort of give guidance to the architectural firm to go forward with. So let me look for something here. Let me turn on my computer. I'm sorry, I'm looking for a document. So if you if I add the 15% contingency, the nano wall here, which is listed as 177, comes out to 177, alternate 1, correct. In fact, it goes up, with the 15%, but there's a problem with the $177,000 figure that the cost estimator provided. The problem is not with the figure itself, but it's in the understanding that we had with KCC that they would cover the delta. The cost that we would have had to incur to keep this as a masonry wall, we said we will still cover. That's fair. We would have had to spend that kind of money. So in that figure, there's $34,500 that actually needs to come back up into the KPPCSD line. That's really attributable and part of the agreement that we said we would pay. We would have paid those costs anyway to just do the masonry wall. So that takes that cost to 143, but when I add the 15% contingency, what's called the nano wall, which is glass doors that act as a wall, but then can be kind of folded back and opened up almost completely, comes out to $164,000. So that's one figure just to keep in mind. The second figure about the heating, again, the preference and the specific item that the KCC donated toward was to go to a 2-furnace system that would get rid of all these hanging gas heaters. These, I think, are original to the building. And create 2 furnaces, one which would have a duct, exposed duct that would run along that north wall, and is more efficient than the gas heaters. Even the current gas heaters, if you replace them, they're 82% efficient, and the furnace system would be more than 90% efficient. Also provides a more even heat and a more even distribution of the heat. And the second furnace would hang in meeting room 2, and would also then have ductwork that would go into meetings room 1 and 2. So those are the 2 items, and when I look at the cost of that and add, which is noted here as $48,000, that is alternate, last one, yes, alternate number 14 at 48.7. When you add 15% contingency, it goes up to 56. Those 2 items together come out to $220,000. So those 2 items slightly exceed the donation from the KCC and are not able to fund the full height wall storage or replacing of the ceiling tile. So I want to lay that out because we have just about the right amount of money to go forward. There's a decision to be made around the type of, it could be a nano wall, could be a French door wall. The French doors would save approximately $10,000, $11,000, would be right in line with the number. The exact choice of door is not the most important thing. If we are willing to go forward with accepting their donation, going to an open wall system and doing the furnace heat, that's the choice we have to make today. We could, we're engaging in conversation with the KCC board. We could express a preference for starting with the nano wall and either working with KCC to fundraise for the extra 10 and then go forward and then drop to a French door later on in the process if we felt that was necessary. So I just want our board members to understand it's not the exact system that is completely determinative today. It's just that we're going to an open door. Now, I also want to update folks on the costs and the funding sources, just so folks have a good sense of where we're at. So the Glass Associates is at $148,000. There's a survey that must happen and environmental hazmat testing around asbestos that we're currently getting proposals for that have to be paid for by the district, estimating those 2 coming in at 10 total. The base project from this these numbers from the cost estimator, but adding back the 34.5 that it needs to be attributed to KPPCSD, puts the base project at 1.105, and with the contingency applied to that amount of 166,000. Again, a 15% very generous contingency. The 2 items that we've discussed from the KCC donation of 164 for the open nano wall and the 56,000 for the gas furnaces puts the current total of all those items together at 1.649 million. Now I want to go over funding sources. Current funding sources include the KPPCSD committed reserve at 350, the 2016-17 budget at 307,000. For construction debris removal, currently estimated at 10,000, could come out of our solid waste franchise fee because that, by our contract, must be hauled away by Bayview. We have 158,000 left on our Contra Costa WW grant. Now that is money we're going to have to lay out before we get it reimbursed, but it will be reimbursed to us. And again, the KCC donation unrestricted of 250,000, the restricted donation of 210. donation from the Kensington Improvement Club of $10,000. That brings us to 1.295. We're also expecting that the Kensington Property Owners Association, they've told us they want to make a donation, so something will hopefully be forthcoming from them in the coming weeks. But without that number, we're at 1.295 with a difference right now of $354,000. Now, what's important to remember is that this project will not be undertaken until beginning in June at the earliest of this year. And we are looking at other additional sources of funding. So in addition to hopefully a donation from the Property Owners Association, we will be doing a 2017-2018 budget revision. And if there are monies there that can be recouped and brought to this project, we'd like to look at that. The Kensington Community Council, in conjunction with me as Park Committee Chair and fundraising chair, but they're really the nonprofit arm of our community. We're a government entity. We don't get tax deductions, so they're, we do? Oh, interesting. Well, that's good to know. But they have been a longstanding tradition of soliciting, obviously, charitable donations, and they're still planning more fundraising with a major donor drive, a high-ticket event, a community drive. So we were going to continue to fundraise throughout the year. We're also looking at the 2018-19 budget. Now, I'm not saying we're looking at it with specific numbers yet, but because this project will occur primarily in the 2018-2019 budget year, we've got a good head start on saving and setting aside money, and we have yet another budget year to look at funds to apply to the project. And then lastly, we've been in touch with the CSDA Finance Corporation about financing mechanisms through them to be prepared to understand what our options are there. So that is the basic update of the project. And, you know, I believe that based on the donation from the KCC, the two big questions around what they need to do for construction documents, should they be doing an open wall plan there, and should they go to a two-furnace heat system, I would recommend that we agree to that. I would like to hear some comments or thoughts from the board about a nano wall versus French doors, not so much from aesthetics, but I want to be in conversation and dialogue with the KCC board and want to know if there is a thought that, you know, we will go with a nano wall and, you know, ask that they, you know, increase the donation to the extra 10 to make up for it with additional fundraising, that we would be willing to say, you know, we want that too and we'll go with that, or we think we should stick to a French door, which puts us just at the right amount, and just have some conversation about that.
You met with them on Monday. What was your feeling, or what, did they express a preference for nano wall versus French door and with the heating system?
They've always expressed, so far, a preference for the nano wall. The cost was much higher than anyone had really anticipated. And I've run some of these numbers in the last, you know, couple of days. Really, even today, had a lot of conversation with Bill Glass and Farhat Dowd to really make sure we're all on the fine point on the numbers. So they have not yet said anything differently other than hoping to get the nano wall, but, you know, we're in conversation. And the heating system, I can also say, you know, based on what Farhat said, was that it was preferable to the gas heaters, and there's not a big difference between those two.
Okay. I guess it would be my preference, given the generosity of KCC and how committed they have been to past fundraising and ongoing fundraising, I'd like to try, because we're just at cost estimation and we're not at the actual bids yet, I guess I really would like to try and honor their requests, and even though it makes us all a little bit nervous, but to really go for the nano wall and the two furnace heating system, because they've been so giving, and I think will be enthusiastic communicators to the community about why we would like these preferences.
So we'd still like to try to come to a position where in the final bid, the money that's been promised will cover the cost, however, or we try to raise the extra 10.
Oh, I'm sure they'd like to help us do that too. Would you like to speak at all, Ciara? Please come forward.
Ciara is on the Park Committee and on the KCC Board. And
Right now, I'm speaking as a member of the KCC Board. We feel very, very strongly about the nano wall, and we also feel extremely strongly about taking care of the heating system now. Those discussions before we when we came to the vote about giving that money, were very, very strong. We will also continue to work on fundraising in a hugely committed way. This is the very first time that we have seen these kinds of numbers that really give us a sense of where we are. I would not underestimate what KCC will do, and that in fact the efforts will be more diverse than so far what has been mentioned. Major donor solicitation, absolutely. But I also know from the fundraising that I've done from Diablo Fire Safe Council, where I've managed to raise $17,000 in contributions for that since August. I know that all of the smaller contributions add up as well, and that we should, here's my real concern. Take our money, do the nano wall. But there is no bait and switch here that you take the nano wall and then change it to the other. Don't do that. If you're not going to do it, you just be straight up with us right at the beginning. But we will raise the money, but it must not, but there it is.
when you say bait and switch, are you worried about a masonry wall or French doors?
French, other than nano.
Okay, well, we will put forth that in the construction documents, and unless the bids come out really weird, it should work out fine. And I actually was not the one who brought up the French door possibility. It was Ann Forrest who just said we could have that conversation. So please don't, use the term bait and switch. I really have I've had a lot of open dialogue, a lot of very detailed dialogue with you and your board and Ann. So we will. It would not be a bait and switch by the KPPCSD board. It would be a joint decision with the KCC to make any changes.
Thank you.
Chris, did you want to say something?
Yes, and I apologize for not really being up to date on this. I kind of came into it late, but I'm curious, how is the decision-making process going to be among us as far as all the different alternatives?
Well, the alternatives all the other alternatives are going to be a matter of what comes back in the bid process, because this is still just cost estimation, and there's no harm in putting the alternates out there.
Right.
And then we'll see what kind of fundraising we have. But this is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to work on this building. Honestly, it was built in '55, it was expanded in '85, we're slightly overdue for another, doing work on this. So if we feel, and I think the community feels, that some of these alternatives are worth doing, we should be looking at how we want to pay for them, and decision-making, when you say, I'm not sure if you mean like choosing them, or do you mean choosing?
I mean choosing them. For instance, replacing the ceiling tiles. Is that, any one of these items, are we going to go as a board down the list and say yes, no, or that's what I'm curious about. How are we going to get to a final decision about what to do?
There's a Park and Recreation Committee that might make recommendations.
Right.
And of course, the KCC, as they have fundraised, in particular, they had 4 specific items that they were fundraising for. So if we choose not to, do ceiling tiles, we would be rejecting a portion of their money, basically, for example. But we will, as a board, ultimately make the final decision, but the Park and Recreation Committee would also provide some input, and there may be another opportunity for a larger community-wide input, another meeting of community-wide input once we have bids and other plans and things like that.
I think once the bids come back, we'll have a much clearer idea if we have any extra funds, and then we can prioritize in conversation, also probably with the architects, who will recommend I think what alternates we could add now and what alternates if we had, would be still cost-effective to add after construction if we had extra dollars.
And the other reason that this is coming up, these two items, the heating and the wall, are foundational to proceeding with construction documents. Everything else, we have time to make those decisions.
I have a question. Have you considered going to the fire board and asking them to participate in funding this project?
There is an item that might be really appropriate for them, but we're not sure if it is going to come to pass. I'm kind of holding my fire for that item if it comes to pass.
What item?
If the fire marshal requires sprinklers, there should be, Bill Glass believes that we will not be, by code, would not be required to have sprinklers. But if the fire marshal says we have to have them, there's no if, ands, and buts, we have to do it, and that would be a perfect opportunity to go to them.
Well, I think there's another angle as well. I think it's within their spending authority to spend on projects in the community that would strengthen it against an earthquake-type disaster, since they would be the first responders if there were an earthquake and this building were to come down, which I understand is likely given its current structure. They would be the first responders to come here, so they have a direct interest in making sure that, minimizing the possibility of that happening.
Mm-hmm.
I've had some discussions with some of the members about that. They haven't knocked it out of the box, so I think it might be worth having that discussion.
Okay.
And the rationale strictly would be, they're making, considering, the soundness of this structure as part of protecting the community within their jurisdiction as well as they can.
I would like to potentially reserve my timing for knowing about the fire piece first, because the fire piece could be $50,000, and what if they offer me 10 or 20 just to do something? So let me, if you don't mind, I'd like to wait. But I get the point, and we still have some time. But once I know about the fire piece in particular, then I'd like to go to them.
And when does the work for the WW funds have to be completed?
Technically, by the end of December, there's opportunities to get extensions. There's no reason that we should need one, frankly, because much of the work that would happen would fall under WW and would be done potentially by the end of December. But that's the technical point at which we have to have the work completed and submitted to the county, but there is the possibility of getting an extension.
Any other public comment? Oh, you have to come to the microphone, sorry for the...
Yes, I'd like to go to page 5 because I'm not clear on some of the numbers that you were referring to, Sylvia.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking here on a grand total. I'm up on the first set of numbers here. Building, site work, and contingency of $1,232,000.
Correct. And I added back a $34,500.
Oh, I understand, but before we go there.
Yeah.
It does not appear that this number includes architectural fees of $150.
It does not.
Right.
I put that in my delineation, but it's not in here.
But just doing without the 10,000 and the 7 and that sort of thing, because it's 307 that we have in the budget, but just using some rounded numbers here. We currently have budget of 300,000. We have a set aside of 350, and we have the WW of 150, and we have the KCC down at an agreed upon 250, bringing us to $1,050,000 against expected expenditures without any of these additional features of $1,386,000, call it $1,004,000. So by my calculation, we're about $350,000 short of where we need to be. Now, I understand there's some tens here. And
that's exactly the number I had.
But so basically, let's just say we're about $300,000 short.
Mm-hmm.
And that's before we do any of these extra add-on items, all right? So my And by the way, before I go there, I just want to get clarification on one other thing further down. It says here that the alternate number 6, meeting hall ceiling, 22,000. I assume that's the tile work?
Up here.
Right. It was my understanding, maybe I was totally wrong on this, that this whole ceiling is coming off. So if it's coming off, why are we talking about an add-on for tile work?
I will check that.
Yeah,
but, I think the roof is coming off. I'm not sure I don't know if the ceiling.
That's what I mean. I mean, basically, the roof got the tile on it.
Right. I was, no, that was not, the ceiling tiles, you see they're attached to this wood, the wood.
All right.
That's
But
not,
at any rate, it's worth asking if.
no, it's an extra. It's definitely an extra. It was not going to come off unless
Okay.
ceiling tiles themselves would not come off.
All right, that was just a separate aside. Getting back to the numbers, if in fact we are indeed 300,000 short roughly, in order to complete the basics of this project, and if in fact you have to have the money fully committed before you can enter.
So that's the other thing. Sorry, I didn't mention that. There is no legal requirement that we have the money committed by February. This was obviously we want to have good fiscal practice and management and know what we're doing as far as funding, but it is not required that we show all monies in hand. That is just not the case. Bill Glass thought it was because in 2 other public projects he's worked on, that's what he assumed was happening. But we've checked with council and we've checked with multiple sources. There's no requirement that we have every dollar in hand in order to go to bid.
Oh, I didn't think that it had anything to do with going to bid. I thought it had to do before you could enter into a construction contract. So if in fact that contractor came in at the roughly $1.3 million to do the basics, don't you have to have $1.3 million committed to that fund? Any rate.
Yeah, that has not, that particular, so we've looked at it from the point of view of do you have to have the money ready to go to bid?
Okay.
So no, I don't know, and I'm not so sure that we would,
All right.
but, yeah.
Okay, here's my last question. It was my understanding that this was going to be the process, that Bill Glass was going to do what Bill Glass has done here, which is he was going to give his, we'll call it ballpark estimates.
He did that prior. This is not Bill's, this is the cost estimator.
Well, and then it was my understanding that we were going to go out and engage a cost estimator to sit down and do a much more detailed examination of these costs. Now, when we did the plans to upgrade this building about 4 years ago, there was a cost estimate involved, and that cost estimate specifically detailed out each and every nut and bolt, more or less, that was going to be done. I don't think that we have gotten down to that stage.
I have this is the executive summary. I have the report of every detail from the cost estimator, so I can provide that. That could be on our website as well.
Oh, okay, so if you could put.
Yes, that will show you the basis of how he came to all these totals.
Oh, okay. I thought that at this point we were still in conceptual drawings. Have we actually engaged Glass to perform final working drawings?
They're going to be doing construction drawings.
Has
That's
this
what we're-
board voted on his going forward with construction? Isn't that something that you would normally do? I don't know.
No, that was part of our contract.
Yeah, it's.
No, but he was going to come forward with some concepts and get some
Been
buy-in.
here a couple of times with those.
True, but I have never seen it come back to the board where the board says, and now we would like to have Glass go forward with drawing up construction documents based upon this set of architectural elevations.
I mean, we've approved a contract with him that authorizes that, so we don't have to as far as I understand, we don't have to vote on it to do it. We're really, that was what we engaged him to do already. The question here really is the type of construction, the type of instruction we're going to give him, which is what kind of heating system and what kind of wall system.
Okay.
On item number 5, is that an upgrade for the floor?
When you say item number 5, do you mean in these?
Alternative 5.
Uh-huh.
Is that a special upgrade for the floor?
You mean, item number 5 is audiovisual equipment, and item number 6 is hall flooring?
Yes.
Meeting hall flooring.
Oh,
I'm looking at a different one. Okay. The flooring here, it would be an upgrade. We don't have to do anything with this floor. And if we
that would be
choose,
cement. Or we just leave the floor?
we're going to leave it what it is.
Okay.
But if we choose to upgrade it, we could choose to do that.
Okay. I don't have 14. You talked about alternative 14. I don't have that.
She meant 13.
I meant 13. I'm sorry. I must be
Okay.
looking at some different, I have
So
weird, yeah.
the good people get 14 on their sheet, and the other ones don't
No,
get
no,
14.
I'm looking at the wrong one. I'm sorry. That's
I
my
don't have
fault.
14 either, so.
Okay,
That's my
I'm just
fault.
kidding.
So there were,
I-
yeah.
I am glad that we did 15% contingency, because on a rebuild on a building that's 60 years old, I don't know, are we going to find asbestos? So I'm glad we did this. And my final comment, I just forgot.
You can ask me after if you think of it.
The last time they were here, I raised the issue of, has solar been considered? And one of the gentlemen from KCC reached out to me at the end of the meeting and said that he would ask the glasses, to consider that and to do an analysis of that. Has that been done?
So the roof has to be made solar-ready by code now. So the roof will be ready to receive solar panels when we have the money to put on solar panels.
Well, I was wondering about solar as an alternative for heating to the furnaces.
Well, solar would just provide the electricity. It would be electric heating. So I don't think that's not been explored.
I think it should be analyzed, because the gentleman and I had some conversation, and he said, well, electricity is a lot more expensive than gas, which is true, except that you can sell the surplus that you don't use back to PG&E, and using solar. Most of the time you're not having to heat it. And using solar might be a really much more economical way to go, and I'm surprised it hasn't really been considered.
Well, we don't believe that it's going to, according to what Mr. Glass said before, it's going to be an initial cost outlay. And it is not anything that we have to decide on at this time in the game. We certainly, other than if we were switching to all-electric heaters, but that's not the recommendation that they've made.
Well, but they also weren't talking about powering them with solar.
I think if this was decision, this probably predates my time on the board, because this would have had to have been a decision made way earlier in the process, because the way that the building has been examined for the mechanical engineering for the heating system has never seriously taken it. Not that it hasn't, it must have been considered at some point, because I know it's been discussed, but I think it was partly a cost issue that we didn't have the funds to put solar on the roof. And so the building was not started with that in mind. And even if KCC had the money to do that, which I don't think it does, that given all the other needs we have, it would have had to have been a decision made much earlier on in the process.
Sorry, not to interrupt you, but in 2015, we had a meeting with a member of the Kensington Green Group who was an expert in LEED, and she told us at that time that the cost for making this a certified LEED building were going to be so exorbitant, it was going to eclipse what kind of project we wanted to do, and that unfortunately she felt, but this is something we certainly can analyze again, that the positioning of the building wasn't going to provide us with a lot of electrical funding.
Yeah, I seem to
pretty
remember
shadowed.
asking them this question last time we had a meeting, and I don't think they wrapped it up completely, but I think the hip shot anyway from them was that it would not be worth the cost, that the benefit we would get wouldn't really wouldn't
We're
return
just
that
very
much, but-
constrained by our budget, Leonard.
Maybe you could just ask them again, Sylvia, because I think they kind of had an answer to that.
I mean, the answer is that the roof has to be solar ready, so there's a possibility of doing it, but there was just no possibility right now with the costs involved.
There was more than that, though. There was something about the actual, the energy demands of the building are not that high, I think is what.
That's right, that's true too. All right, I will get you a better answer, but I know it's been discussed, but it was not, considered to, and no, I mean, it was rejected, and that's why the building systems were designed the way they were. And there's a lot of passive solar that will come in with the wall that will get a lot of passive heat that way.
Well, I understand that, but how much is the gas heating? How much are the furnaces to install that whole heating?
Yeah, the total for that will be, I'm looking at my different, no, I have
56,000.
56,000.
56,000? That's all?
Yeah, and then the other question is, what do we pay yearly for gas and electric? That's a
That's a
part of the
big issue,
equation.
yeah, the cost of maintaining it over time.
I did ask about cost, not for solar, but for gas heaters versus furnace, and there was no significant cost for.
Well, I don't mean that, but I mean the cost of heating over time, the actual cost.
Now, what are the
of gas.
bills, the electric and heating bills yearly?
We pay approximately around $1,400 a year to heat this building.
Okay, well, I can
That's
see
more
where
electric.
you're all coming from, okay.
But it's an important issue. It's something that the board, with our vote about the Kensington Green Group, is clearly fundamental. We believe that we should be environmentally focused with our capital assets. So thank you for bringing it up, and we'll continue to explore that if it ever becomes
Okay, yeah, I
a
wasn't,
possibility. It's absolutely, we should all be solar if we can be.
I wasn't raising it as an ideological issue, but rather as a cost issue and a savings issue.
I remember my final comment. Len sort of stole my idea. I think you as a board ought to ask the fire board to contribute $200,000 of our tax money for our building. I just think you ought to think about that and do that. It also gives the fire board an opportunity not to spend $100,000 for the next 2 years on an improvement of a building that they want to tear down. That $200,000 would do a lot better in this building than trying to do an improvement with that.
Thank you.
Simon Brofman. I just want to clarify something. You were talking about electrical rebates from PG&E. Aren't we going with MCE?
Yes.
Okay. I was talking to them about the whole solar issue. And when you don't use all the energy, they buy it back from you. And the deal from MCE is much, much better than any deal you'd get from PG&E. So should you go down that path, be aware that MCE has a very favorable purchase back program.
Thank you.
Pardon? When we are, MC won't be until later, much later this year, before we switch over.
So Sylvia, I just want to say thank you for all your work on this. I know it hasn't been easy.
No, I enjoy it, and it's going well, and everyone's working well together. Everyone's very excited about this. I think we have another year ahead of us of some really high-octane fundraising, as Ciara said, of all types, high amounts, low amounts, all sorts of things. So I will check in with, the sense I get is that, we'll have them design the nano wall and the two furnace system, and I will report back as to what we can expect to see from them next.
Sounds good.
Great.
Okay. Moving on to item B, 8B, the presentation of our new district website. So,
I'm going to need some time to set up. So
okay,
like
why
a
don't we
5-minute break.
take a 5-minute recess and we can do calisthenics to keep ourselves warm.
Should we turn these on?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to continue the meeting.
A little, there, yeah, there you go. That's good.
How about the ones that run along the underneath?
This is good for me. I wanted to read a little bit, so.
So you're good.
I'm good, right.
We're going to move and continue.
Can everybody see that? Is that big enough, clear enough?
Do you want to wear these lights?
That's good. Okay, so I thought I'd go over, well, as you know, we've been working on a new website for quite a while, and it's now live. And I thought I'd go over the new design. There's some new concepts in the site that you should know, and as I go through the different sections, I'll explain the major differences between the new site and the old site, and of course, at the end, any questions are welcome. So this is the home page. You can see a new URL or new domain name. It's kppcsd.org, which is a lot simpler than kensingtoncalifornia.org, and those are going to be our email addresses as well. I have to coordinate that with the rest of the people, but probably starting tomorrow, whatever, when we send an email out, it'll be coming from @kppcsd.org instead of Kensington, California. You can always send emails to either or, but they'll be going out under the new domain name. We still have to make that switch, and I need to talk about that with you. But, and I think that's better. It really says what we are. We're a community services district. We're not the website for all of Kensington, because there's a number of Kensington entities. The old site was going to redirect to the new site, but when I did that, it made it such we could never get back to the old site. So I've got to work with Aaron at PagePoint, and that's what you saw, Lynn. So that's fixed. But now the KensingtonCalifornia.org is still going to go to the old site until I can clean up some internal conflicts there. And as you can, we have a new logo, which was created by a Kensington resident, and I think it looks very good. It's a lot cleaner. If you click on it, let's say you go to the police section, this is HughesNet internet, and that's why it's kind of pokey, just so you know. It's not the site itself, it's just satellite internet is not optimal, as you can see right now. So let's say you're on the police page. At any point in the site, if this will ever stop doing it, you can always click on the logo and it'll take you back to the home page. And it's kind of standard website behavior. And the layout is, it's got a header section with a calendar of events, a search. We've got a middle section, which is really just talking about who we are. There are some teasers here. All the meetings that are in the month are going to automatically populate down below here. And there's a couple links at the bottom that I'll go through. So the first thing to notice, we have a calendar of events up at the top. And this will be calendar of our board's events. It's not calendar of the KCC or other Kensington entities. It's essentially meetings, board meetings, committee meetings. There aren't any committee meetings on here yet, but once we decide what the committees are, then we can populate the committee meetings. You can always search for something, and let's look for instance, come back here, matrix. And it'll show you all the results that have matrix attached to it. For instance, and the first thing, it comes up with the matrix proposal. So you click on that. And something about the search, it's not going to take you to the actual document. It's going to take you to the page that holds the document. So if we'll get there. So this is the page that contained the document. There's a presentation of the proposal. And just so you know, both the presentation and the proposal are textual or source PDFs. They're not scanned documents anymore, so you can go through them and search for them. It's much better. So go back to the home page. That's how search works, is you can search for anything. Just remember, when you find something, it will take you to the page and not the actual document. You have to then click on the document, and that's something that's actually kind of I consider a bug. Streamline considers it a feature, but I'm working with them to fix that bug. Let's put it that way. So again, the middle section, these are called teasers, and you'll see those throughout the site. They're squarish, rectangular images, objects, whatever, that will talk about something, and if you click on it, it'll actually take you to the page that's referring to. And on the home page, these will probably rotate and change based on the month or what's going on. So there's a welcome to our new site, there's a teaser for the matrix proposal, and there's a teaser for the community center renovation. I'll look at this in a second, but for instance, welcome to our new site. I was thinking about that today, about what if people have questions, and I'm sure I'll get a lot of emails. But what I did is I created a frequently asked questions page, which talks about what I thought people might be asking already. So I'm sure this will be filled out once I get more comments and more questions from the public. But that's an example of a teaser where you can actually customize. For instance, it didn't say frequently asked questions on the teaser. It just says we have a new site, and it'll take you to this page. There's a matrix, there's a community center renovation, and I'll go through that when we get to the community center. And again, at the bottom, these are upcoming meetings. These are all our board and committee meetings that are happening this month. So this is obviously today, and then there's a January 25th. And I think, Celia, you asked about the agenda. It's another, what I consider bug with the Streamline system. They consider it a feature. It should have a link for the agenda here. And actually, there's a law that comes into effect, I believe, at the 1st of next year, that the agenda link has to be on the homepage. So they're working on populating this little area with the agenda link. But right now, you have to click on the board meeting, and it will take you to the actual meeting page. Come on, Hughes. No, there we are. And now there's the agenda and the draft minutes. So that's how you get to the agenda and the draft minutes. That's for any meeting, actually, when you see throughout the site. And if you notice the agenda, we now have a textual agenda. So you could search the agenda. You could, well, you could, if you wanted to find something in the agenda, you could type search in the search box. And it's going to, yes, find something in there, right? Yes.
Could you explain to the community why it is that we need to change from one website format to another?
We don't really, I guess need is maybe too strong of a word, but there's a number of regulations like ADA compliance, Section 508, where websites have to follow certain standards and be accessible, and I highly doubt our old website was, and bringing that up to standard is really tough. This is based on what's called a content management system, so we're not going in and writing each page with the what's called the source HTML. We're configuring certain parts of the site, and the system then renders this for us, and it does it in a way that's compliant with a lot of the regulations. So that's one of the big things. They also have some capabilities such as the concept of a meeting, which we just have to add an agenda, put a date, and maybe some minutes, and it will display it consistently across the site as opposed to having to recreate and recode a meeting. So there's some things that will make the administration of the site a lot easier, a lot more consistent. And there's a couple of other things, as you see, we'll go through that will make it a lot better. So I think need maybe is, well, for the 508, we really do need it, and they're tracking all the regulations that are coming on board for websites, and they're going to put capabilities in that hopefully we'll get for free, that will display things correctly in the right format, such that we'll be following a lot easier than previously. I think it looks a lot better as well, but it's mainly for compliance with the number of regulations, if that makes sense. And I wasn't involved in the process for choosing them, but I'm assuming that was a big reason. So anyway, the board meeting, any kind of meeting is going to look like this, where there's potentially an agenda, draft minutes. I'll go back to the meetings a little later. There's more features on the meetings. So I'll just go through the individual sections and some of the highlights. I'm not going to go through every single page in every section because that would take too long, but some of the parts that are important. So there's a police, parks and rec, waste management, which really coincides with our three main areas of responsibility. There's a governance section I'll show you, links and FAQ, which are frequently asked questions. So this is a police, mostly the same. The different sections aren't really that different than the current police website section, although it looks a lot different. One thing to note, and here's some differences. We have a vacation watch system here. We used to have a form where people would fill out the vacation watch form, and it was done over what's called a secure socket, so it would have that little lock sign. You'd be sending your data to the website in a secure line, but then the website would send an email to the police department just in a text-only email, totally unsecured, and then they would send an email back to the resident also in just clear text. And so both of those ways to the police department, back to the resident, were really a security hole. And if someone really wanted to, they could have tapped into that and watched all the traffic going back and forth and known when people were going on vacation. So it was a questionable and really security problem in the first place. And some of you may have known our website, the old site got hacked around New Year's Eve. Someone took it over. Luckily, they did it in a malicious way so we could see that what they had done, and we cleared it up. But the other thing that could happen, someone could hack the website and hijack the forms and have that data sent without our even knowing it to someone else. And so someone could be monitoring all the vacation watches. So it wasn't a good system in the first place, and it was made obvious it was even more risky with the hacking. So right now you have to contact the police department. We can look at a different system, but it's not, as you know, a lot of websites get hacked these days. So it's not something we can't ignore. So right now you have to call the police department. And I think, Lynn, you already got an inquiry about why that has to happen. And it's really about secure, because the old system was insecure and just couldn't take the risk. No, I don't know. It's sometimes very hard to track. But that's the old system. This is a much more secure system, so I hope that won't happen. I mean, we'll watch it, but I've talked to Streamline, and they've said in I think 2 years, no one's ever broken into it. They get what's called denial of service attacks, which people try to flood the website with requests, but they've been able to stay up. So they have a pretty good system. We now have a link for the supplemental traffic enforcement, one of my favorite forms. So if you've got, if you have any problems with traffic, you can fill this out. And this is, there's nothing of privacy that we have to worry about. You're just telling the police department there's a traffic problem. I don't think that's any big secret. So, and finally, there's the matrix proposal, which is nice. That's new to the website. And that's under the police section because it's dealing with evaluating the police services. We've got both the presentation and the proposal, and these are both also in pure PDF textual files. They're not scanned, so it's if you're doing a search and you wanted to find something inside this proposal, you'd find it. And also, just looking at it, it's going to be a lot cleaner than a scanned copy. So Parks and Rec, also somewhat similar, although it's been rewritten completely, and thank you to Eileen for all her work. There she is, yeah. Is there anything? Yeah, there's a page for the community center renovation. And I'll go back to this in a second and show you something else. And that's linked from the homepage. So there's the latest design and the current agreement with Glass Associates. Those are both on this page, and we can update it as we get more information. And so let me go back to that page that we were at. These are also teasers. Sometimes on the right side of the page, you'll see these show up, and it's the same kind of a teaser where, let's say you want the facility request form. You don't want to go to a menu, you just want to click on that. And these are optional, what shows up there. We decide just what's interesting. Those will probably change over time. Not as quickly as the homepage teasers will, but those will probably change.
Chris?
Yes?
We just discussed briefly, I mentioned to you this idea of having a form, quote unquote, to be able to let the office know when there's a problem at the park. So a form like that, is that what you're thinking of? Like you could just do, or you say you just have a contact, but a form might be the way you had the.
Oh, you mean as far as problems with the park?
Yeah.
I was thinking probably just a notice of a contact person you could send something to an email.
Right, let them
I mean, we could do that. We could also have a form. It's just a free form, one or two, three fields.
If you have any thoughts on that, let us know. Like Simon is very good at noticing when there's a problem with the tennis courts. I have lots of parents who tell me when the water fountain's broken. That's the kind of thing. So
Maybe a form would be a good idea, yeah. Maybe. Right, okay. And so there's waste, I'm sorry, when I said the Parks and Rec was completely rewritten, I was wrong. It was waste management was completely rewritten, sorry about that. And this just has a lot of information. Probably one of the most interesting items is the recycling options. And everyone is always interested in what you can do and how you can recycle. And there's this nice table that I only put together. And again, it's not a scanned version, it's a source PDF, so it's nice and easy to read, you can print it out. So the biggest probably section is called governance, and this is where probably the biggest area of difference from the old site is. And there's a concept of meetings, as I said, but they're not just individual meetings. There's a whole dashboard, as you might say, that'll show all the meetings for all different years. We only have 2017 and 2018 meetings entered into the site right now. This is our current meeting. The interesting ones are in the past, and I'll show you why. Because not only can you have the agenda or the minutes, but let's say we want to look at what was going on in the September 28th meeting. You click on it, and hopefully we've got this correct. Oh, there we go, sorry. It's just taking a while to load.
Chris?
Yes?
So will those be the draft minutes or the approved minutes?
When they go to the meeting, those will be the approved minutes.
And then where will the approved, sorry, would you repeat the answer?
The approved minutes will be attached to the meeting. I've got the draft minutes approved to this meeting because that was part of the agenda, I assumed.
So the draft minutes will disappear
Yes.
completely?
Yeah. Right.
Thank you.
Right. So anyway, any meeting will have, hopefully, the video of the meeting, unless there was a reason we couldn't record it, and the agenda and the minutes. So that's standard. Anytime you click on a meeting anywhere in the website, you should get this interface. Again, there's some that don't have a video because the video system wasn't working. And then if you just want to play it, you click play. So let's go to, I just mentioned I've got a committees page, but I don't really have anything behind these because I was waiting for more information on who's going to be on the committee. Once we do that, we can enter all the committee meetings into that same type of interface, and you'll be able to click on park committee meetings, solid waste meetings, and finance meetings, if that makes sense. So we've also got committee documents. And right now I only have one document. So I've got ad hoc committee documents, also something somewhat familiar with. And this is the PDF version of the final report. It's not a scanned version. So for instance, if we wanted to find, let's see, Sutter Creek. I seem to remember there's something about Sutter Creek in that document. So now it found it in the final document, which of course with a scanned PDF you're not going to be able to do that. I'm not going to open it on this connection because it's just too slow, but you can open it up and it's a PDF and then you can do your own searching. So it's really nice to have that. And there's something which is automatically populated based on some of the settings we do behind the scenes called transparency. I know that's been a big question for some people. So there's a transparency certificate that we can get, and there's a number of different items that we have to supply and have on the website. So these are all the items that we need. And if in the interest of transparency of the transparency, I've put them all here even if we don't have them. And it's I would say a shortcoming of the system. There's no way for this to be asterisked or marked to say, yes, you've got a link there, but there's nothing behind the link. So most of these have some content. I believe, like for instance, the election procedures and filing deadlines, I don't have that yet, so this page is under construction. But what this does is it lets us see all the different items that we have to have for the transparency certificate, which is really nice. And there was a couple others. Oh, the financial reserves policy. I don't have that one on here yet, so yeah. Again, there's a lot more governance, and a lot of it is coming from the old website, just looking in the new format. There's a link section. It kind of takes the place of the community section, but last meeting I said, I believe I said something about not wanting to put political type content on here, and Anne let me know that because we're a public forum and First Amendment free speech, we can't filter on content. So if we wanted to allow anybody to put their link on here, we can't say, well, we don't like it because this or this, the content based. So what I've got here are entities that are directly in some way related to us. The fire department, the KCC because they do our recreation, the KMAC, which is a county organization, other special districts, Supervisor John Joya, county services, and there's a little link that talks about special districts. So, what's under other special districts? I think we've got some other special districts there. I'll show you, yeah. Right, right. Other special districts that serve Kensington. It just makes it a long menu item, but so East Bay Mods, Stage, there's a space there I got to get rid of, East Bay Regional Park and West Contra Costa Unified School District.
Is there a reason why they're hidden? I mean, I thought those are all very directly important to people. Do they have to be hidden behind the other special? I know it gets long.
I would just a way to condense the menu, but it doesn't have to be hidden.
I would recommend putting it up front because I think if I was a new parent looking for when it's kindergarten registration, I would never think to click under other special district and find a school district. Or if I was concerned about the water bills, I would know to find East Bay Mud by searching further. I think those would be good to just have up there.
Sure, that's easy.
Yeah. PG&E would be another good one to have up there, plus how people can find out information about outages. I
Okay.
get lots of questions about that. Thank you.
I guess we pay bills to PG&E, so we could consider being connected to them. Yeah. Right, it's, if we can help. Yeah. Right. And of course, there's the FAQs. And that's pretty much the differences in what the new site looks like. What's to do still is I'd love to convert a lot of our scanned documents to source PDFs. Adobe Acrobat can do a pretty good job of that. If we have the original source documents, we can just reprint them to PDF instead of to paper, but that's just going to be a project to do over time and all the spare time that we have. And we have to fill out the committee details in the committee meetings, so those show up. So that's, okay. Any questions? Yes? Oh, and let me find a couple of final things. At the bottom, there's a contact us link, and there's a link for the legacy website. I have to put that in. Again, you can contact us. It'll send an email, and hopefully this will take us to the legacy website page. I've got to get something different than this satellite internet. It's just horrible.
Chris, is it possible, I don't know if you have done this already, but one of the things that always frustrated me is when you went into the documents section, and you had documents typically listed by the time at which they were placed into the document file.
Right.
So it's by date. But the documents might have included, for example, MOUs. Is it possible to do subfolders where you put all the MOUs together instead of having them?
Here, how's that?
Why? I can't, it's hard to see what's happening
Oh,
there.
police, well, memorandums of understanding with the police, so that's a separate section.
But no, if you go to what was the documents section, I assume you still have such a section.
No, really, it's divided up by the type of documents.
All right. I'll take a look at it, and then I'll...
Take a look at it.
I have one last question, and that is, when I go on the, on other cities, and I look at their agenda packet, it's not uncommon that most cities today have the agenda, and then they have, for example, new business items, and only if you are interested in that new business item do you have to see it. So what will come up initially is the entire agenda with a brief description, and if you want to see more about it, you click on that particular one, and it opens up all of the detail that might be behind it.
Right, they typically use a separate system for the agendas, it's like agenda builder software. We looked into that, we're really not there yet, but that would be the option, is that we would link to their sort of page that shows the agenda, and it would have that kind of functionality.
I say that because when you try to open up the old agendas that were 100 and some odd pages long, you could sit there waiting for 10 minutes before it finally downloaded.
Right.
And a lot of that stuff you weren't interested in the first place.
Well, I think if you see now, we've broken the agendas up until the core agenda, and then what's called monthly reports, which is the additional information. And those are in the governance section of monthly reports. And that's kind of a new thing I saw, that I'm assuming we're going to have one a month, not two a month if you have meetings, but one monthly report a month, okay. So that's sort of, I guess, what you're asking for.
I just want to make a brief comment, which is the recycling guide, frankly, is really attributable to Delk, who was the inspiration and helped quite a bit in getting that, so, yeah.
Just one final thing. This is a link to the legacy website. If you click here, it will take you to the old website. It didn't for about an hour or two today, but it does now. And if you have any questions, just send an email to webmaster@kppcsd.org. Someone will get it. I think we're still discussing that. In the short term, that's me. Yeah.
Well, we have to give just incredible thanks to Chris, because he took this project on. I know that all of us dabbled in it. If I tried to dabble in, we did 1% of a percent, and he built this all and transferred everything and understands it and put everything forward. And so I mean, your expertise and your commitment, we are so thankful. We couldn't have done it without you.
Thank you.
Fabulous.
And it'll be evolving over the next few months. We're going to add new photos, and we're going to want your input because we know that there'll be gaps or documents that will be needed, and we'll try to do a steady and not burden Chris totally, so that he's allowed to do other things, run his own business and things, but.
Yeah, my partners don't know I did this. They'd kill me if they.
Okay. So no one tell his partners that.
No.
Alrighty, any other questions? No? Okay, we're going to move on to thank you so much again, Chris. We're going to move on to the last item of the evening, which is just can I ask you to turn the light out so I'm not? Yes. Thank you. And no one has to see my head glowing. The appointment of the board committees and coordinators, the policy appears on page 15 of your agenda. And my fellow board members have offered to serve in the following ways. The emergency preparedness will be run, by myself, coordinator. The solid waste committee will be headed by Eileen Natoli. The finance committee and finance and administration will be handled by myself and Director Welsh. Community outreach will be handled by Director Hasai. Park planning and recreation, the board coordinator will be Director Hasai. Park funding will be Director Deppy. Public safety building board coordinator will be Director Welsh. The policy and procedure manual will be deftly handled by Vice President Natoli. And intergovernmental relations will be handled by Director Deppy. So we are not appointing committee members this evening to those committees. We're still in discussion now that board members know their areas of focus this year, which are largely a repeat. We will. Oh, page 15 of the agenda, I believe. Is, yes, it's our policy and procedures manual that just lists the coordinators. I'm sorry, it doesn't have a, yes. The public safety building, Director Welsh. After policy, intergovernmental relations, Director Deppy, who's also our LAFCO representative. We're going to discuss, we're in ongoing discussions to figure out how best to utilize these committees, and so we'll be figuring out how we're going to appoint community members at the next meeting. So that will have that discussion. Oh, and I should we will be having a finance committee meeting, but that will be probably now not until early February because we're awaiting our audit. So there's no concern for folks who are anticipating or hoping to be attending the finance committee meeting. That won't not be January. We're in January 24th, as previously announced. All right. Yes?
Who's doing your audit? Is it still La Marina and Chang?
Yes, it is La Marina and Chang. And it is completed. We just need to have the draft form. And so once we know that we have a draft form in hand and can review it, then we can advance to scheduling the finance committee meeting. So, all right. Well, thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you January 25th.
I move that we adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye, yes.
We are going to adjourn to closed session now. Yes. So we will report out after that, but good evening. Thank you.